Look, people can be mad all they want to about what's going on in Tennessee right now and their quarterback Nico and Josh Heupel and that whole thing. But the reality is simply this. Coaches have been maneuvering and doing this type of behavior for years. Brian Kelly ducked out on the Cincinnati football team that had gone undefeated, and instead of seeing it through and coaching them against Florida, he ducked out. He took the job at Notre Dame. He thought it was higher ground. He never did anything at Notre Dame other than get obliterated in the playoffs and in the then BCS era as well. Didn't Alabama win that game and damn near a shutout? Then, in addition, he leaves Notre Dame high and dry for that $100 million contract at LSU. But we're mad for some reason at college athletes doing this. You know, college athletes for the longest time may as well have been basically pro athletes. They've been treated like it. They've participated like it. The NCAA has made money like it. The advertising is the equivalent. The stadiums are all brought in by sponsorship deals. Why are we so upset when an athlete goes out and makes a little extra coin for themselves? There shouldn't be any reason that we're mad at Nico for getting the bag while he can. Because let's all keep it a buck. In the NFL, Nico is a perfectly average quarterback. But in the NCAA, he's a slightly above average quarterback, which makes him more desirable. And what Nico can do that he couldn't do before when all this money was being handed to athletes like him under the table is go and get representation and defend himself against the court of public appeal and public opinion. He can now go and say, look, here's what's going on. Here's what was promised. Yeah, I wanted to restructure. This is why I felt we needed to restructure, and there's that. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at the way the season ended and go, come on. He didn't do anything against Ohio State. They still haven't accomplished really much with Josh Heupel since he's been there. You could look at it that way. Or you could also look at it and go, so far, Heupel has been that coach that's on the cusp but can't seem to cross over into that next dimension. He can't get over the threshold. That's another way that we could look at it. And to be honest with you, look, I don't have a problem with either one. But my issue is if a coach is allowed to do this, if a coach is allowed to play these games, if coaches are allowed to get involved in the coaching tree and coaches are allowed to maneuver any way they want to and go through the coaching carousel and do all this nonsense and leave for the highest bidder, why can't a college athlete do the exact same thing? They should have the exact same privileges because they are grown adults. At the age of 18, you are lawfully able to sign a contract. But the NCAA used to make 18-year-olds sign a contract saying you're not allowed to sign a contract with anybody else. You're not allowed to have a job. You're not allowed to make any money outside of us. You can't do any of that. And why did the NCAA do that? Because it was free slave labor, people. It was free promotion to the universities, to the college themselves, and they did a masterful job, and they still do, in how they advertise college athletics. 90% of over 90% of college students will be going pro in something else. Isn't that clever as hell? Making it look like that degree, that piece of paper is always going to be worth its weight in gold. That is astounding. Whoever put that together is a marketing genius. For the longest time, their argument was very simple. He can't get paid because he's a student athlete. Okay, but why can't he get a job? Because he's a student athlete. It was this bucket term they coined, and you could throw it into any situation, into any bucket. Hey, I've got a mountain of reasons in this bucket why this person should be allowed to make money. Nope, student athlete. Student athlete. Student athlete. Over and over again. when these universities gave zero damns about whether or not they were student athletes. If they cared, Michigan wouldn't have played 15 games of basketball in 22 days. And then a couple of years later, play 11 games of basketball in 22 days. Nobody would be signing up for that if it was about education. Because between practice and film study and traveling and everything else, when in the Sam hell are they supposed to be participating in their academics? Go ahead, I'll wait. Half of those games on the road. Get serious. Do you think it's more important for the university that Michigan beat their rival Michigan State during that time frame? Or do you think that it's more important to the university as to whether or not their players are actually graduating, especially in basketball with the one and done rule, which was nauseating from the time it was created? It was an absolute insult to anybody who wanted to go to college. See, with the NIL money, colleges basically acknowledged who they really were for the longest time. You know, we can't forget that SMU got what was called the death penalty because of the way that they were paying athletes. In fact, for a while, it was said if you graduated from SMU and went to the NFL, you probably took a pay cut. Now, think about that for a minute. You took a pay cut. Go watch The Pony Excess. Great documentary, a 30 for 30 on how that whole thing went down with SMU. How many times has University of Miami been penalized? OU's been penalized. How many times? Eric Dickerson will tell you, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Like I said, I think Nico is a perfectly slightly above average quarterback. But he's got to determine his worth. That's not for me to decide. That's not for anybody to decide, but Nico. And let's be honest, he's going to sell a couple of jerseys. The stadium's going to be sold out, and they're going to justify it because Nico is there. And Nico's got the resume now of, I've been to the playoffs. I mean, come on, isn't that what half of the quarterbacks in the NFL who are making way more than what they are worth? Isn't that their excuse? I've been to the playoffs. Well, I had this one good season. And I think Nico may understand, I don't know if I'm going to make this type of money in the NFL. I don't know when my career is going to end. I could get injured a week into this thing. I got to get my money while I can, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I guarantee you, if I was him and I was in his situation, I would pull the same maneuver if I felt it was a good thing for me to do financially. When's it going to be enough? When's it going to be enough? I don't know, man. When is money ever going to be enough for anybody, including the NCAA? Who ripped these kids off for the longest time. When they would get injured, their scholarships would be lost. I guess nobody remembers what happens with Coach Tress and Ohio State, do they? Better go look that whole thing up. Poor number 13, man. Been way more forgiving than he should have been, if you ask me. Seriously. Regardless, the bottom line here is it's working. It's justified. If coaches can do it, players can do it. And we're going to stop telling young adults how to live their lives. Because I'm telling you right now, if I was 12 years old, seeing this kind of money floating around, the only thing I would do is get in my academics and get in the gym to make sure that I'm big enough, strong enough, fast enough to be able to be recruited and that my grades are good enough for me to get in. After that, everything is what it is, and I'm doing nothing but living in that film room. I'm making retirement money before I even go to the league. Promise you that. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. I'm wherever you listen in the podcast. Simply take advice to play the Drew Duncan Sports Show. Everybody stay safe. Have a wonderful rest of your night and or day.